Hello, welcome to Weather, Lab 9, Part 2. And now we're going to be working on making isobar lines, and there's some different types, and the first ones we're going to be working with is the iso lines for isotherms, which is temperature, and isodrosperms, which are dew point temperatures. And just like in the other examples, we're going to have the little stations like we were playing with. So here's my stations, and we're going to be reading the top number for the isotherm lines, and we're going to be putting together the isobar lines, the isodrosperm lines, for dew point based on the bottom numbers. So as always, when you create these numbers, you want to put things that are the same together. So in my example down here, the line is drawn between all lines of the same temperature, because this is an isotherm line. So if it's 75, I'm going to draw it through the temperature line. If it is 70, I'm going to draw it through the temperature line. But every so often you have a number that's in between those temperatures so that you can't put it on one side on the line itself. So now you're going to be going in between. So for example, down here they want us to do 1012 as our millibar lines. This is our example here. They already put in the X's to kind of show where you would draw it. But everything less than 1012 has to go on one side of the line, and everything greater than 1012 has to go on the other. And to make this trickier, even though this says 100, we have to remember these have tens in front, right? So these are pressure lines, and they are written very confusing. So on this one, they're 1010.0, this is 1012.5, this is 1013.0, and 1014.0. Which means that when I go to draw my 1012 line, I want to separate the 1010 from all the others. And so I'll do it like this and separate them. And then I will label my line 1012. So down here in this other page, they give you a nice complete view where they made temperature lines, and they separated things that were different from the things that were the same. And they drew through the line on the ones that were the number. So that was the number 40, the one I kind of scratched out there, and they drew it through that point, if you notice. They drew through the 40. We're going to do this connect the dot game with the examples on this page. Now up on the top corner up here, they give us some information. They said you should do it by intervals of 5, and that it will be in degrees Fahrenheit. And they give you an example and say 35, 40, 45 as your example. So knowing that, when I look down here, I'm only going to look at the top number. Don't look at the bottom numbers. The bottom numbers are the dew points. And yes, it is this confusing. This is part of the modeling that makes it hard. And so you're going to look for the smallest number that you can, which they're giving you the example of 35. So 35 might be the smallest number that we see down here. I'm looking for anything smaller than a 35. I see this 34 up here. So this one here has a 34. That one's tiny. And that looks pretty good. So my first line is going to be a 35, and I'm going to separate 34 from all the other temperatures. And this whole image is the map. So I'm going to take it, and I'm going to draw a solid line because this is an isotherm. If it was an isodrosperm, it's a dotted line. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to label 35 degrees Fahrenheit. My next one is a 40 line, so I'm looking for all numbers below 40 or anything that is 40, and that's this one, and this one, this one, this one. These are 41s. All right, and this one is a 40, so I'm going to draw it through that point. So here we go. I'm going to separate out, and I'm going to start over here for my 40 line. I'm going to separate out these 39s from those 43s and go around the 45 through the 40 dot and between this 38 and 39 and these 41s. And then I'm going to label my line 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This kind of separated. I apologize. I got funny there on my image. All right, next one will be a line that is 45. This one's 43 degrees, so that's going to be in between my line. That one's greater. This one is a 45. 48 is too big. 41, 42, 41. And this one is a 45. And that one's 46, so the one below is too big. So I'm going to draw it through the 45, go between the 43 and the 46, between the 48, 45, go between the 48 here, get these down here that are smaller than, oop, and look, I missed this 45, so I'm going to have to go through that 45 and here. Make sure you're doing this in pencil so that you don't mess it up. Even if it's in the color pencils, then you guys can erase and make it nice and clean and do it right. So we're playing this game of connect the dots. I'll let you guys finish with the next set of numbers because there's obviously still more numbers to separate out. Just make sure when you go back to check that everything that's on this side of the line in my example, so everything that's over here on this side of the line is less than 45, and everything on this side of the line is greater than 45. So that's a big piece. Don't let any like 48s be on the opposite side, because these lines are lines of separation. And then what we do in weather maps is we blank out the numbers and we just show you the lines. All right, so now welcome to question 4, and this time we're going to be doing isotherms. So we're going to be looking at the bottom number, the dew point. That's what we're talking about with isotherms. They're dew point numbers. T with a little d, that's dew point. They want us by intervals of 5 again. And so we're going to be looking for our smallest number, which I think is 25 on here. So I'm looking at my bottom numbers, and I'm not seeing anything, like my 22 would be between 20 and 25. So my first line can be a 25 line. I'm going to separate everything less than 25 from everything greater. So I can draw my first line in, and I'm going to do a solid line. But with that said, you should be doing a dotted line. I'm just doing a solid line because it makes sense for the thing I'm trying to draw with. It'd be a mess if I'm trying to make dots. This little spongy thing. Next number will be a 30 line, so everything less than 30. So this little 28 will be there. You have anybody else? This one is a 30 down here. A lot of this game is just taking your time and finding the right spots. All right, so for my 30 line, I've got to go around this 31, touch my 30, separate the 28 from the 30, and there. And I like to write all my numbers on one side, so these are going to be my 30-degree Fahrenheit line. Next one is going to be my 35. And let's see, the 31 is going to go, this 33. That looks like it, so here we go. My 35 line is going to go between this 31 there, above the 38, and there. Next line will be my 40 line. Once again, you're doing dotted. Make sure you're using pencils so that you keep it clean. Everybody who is less than 40 based on the bottom number, so it's this 38, 36, 38, 38. This one is a 40. This one's a 38. These are 39, 39. All right, so here we go, 40 line. And go between these. Go above this point. This one between, through the 40. There we go, that's my 40 line. And so you guys finish up the last sets. Remember, you're looking at the bottom number. All right, question 5 is a bit of a dorky one. It says complete the analysis below, and you're going to draw in 6 streamlines to illustrate or generate the wind direction. So now we're just looking at these tails, and if you notice, like right in here, they drew this because all these little tails on the back are drawn to go in this direction. You're going to draw in 6 more lines where you kind of see 6 little arrows of directionality. And so, like I see this little cluster right here of these guys. So I'm going to draw in a streamline for them going like this. And I see this grouping right here that's going down here. And so I'm going to draw in a streamline like that. I see this little curved streamline occurring in here. So I'm going to give a little curve. see? And over here I see that there's a little curve doing the same thing in this kind of general direction. So there you go. So I gave you 4. You guys find 2 more because they said 6. So give me the arrows, and that'll be all for this video, part 2.